Ms. Carroll's lawyer, Robbie Kaplan, says she and her client are currently weighing whether or not to bring yet another defamation suit against Donald Trump, this time for the new iterations he made of these lies on television in the immediate wake of the verdict. For the first time since he was elected president, E. Jean Carroll and her lawyer, Robbie Kaplan, have proven in a court of law that Trump cannot tell lies with impunity. They have done that for the country. They were not the first to try, but they were the first to succeed, to hold Trump accountable by the American judicial system. First time anybody has been able to do that since he was elected president. They've already done that. Now they have to decide what to do next. Joining us now for the interview is E. Jean Carroll and her lawyer, Robbie Kaplan. It is very nice to have you both here. Thank you.
Great to be here.
I'm sorry I made you sit through that whole thing about the attack in Virginia and the Durham report. Forgive me.
I just want to stand up and give you a standing ovation. I hadn't realized that nobody had done this, that we're the first.
Yeah.
I just now realized it when you said it.
Yeah, you,
Robbie.
you did it. And
wow.
We as a country are inured to the idea, not just that politicians tell lies, right? We're inured to this specific thing with Mr. Trump in which he lies about even checkable things. And he lies in ways that are very hurtful, that are designed to ruin people's lives. And there's no consequences for it. All he does is benefit. Cruelty makes him seem stronger. Cruelty makes him seem more macho. Cruelty makes his adoring public adore him all the more. You are the first people to have punctured that by using the legal system to say you have to be held accountable for what you said. I was going to ask you how that felt, but you're only realizing it for the first time now.
Well, when the verdict came, I think we ascended to the ceiling.
We did.
And it was the happiest day of my life. And on top of having the happiest day of our lives was added, we were so proud to be in America and see democracy actually work. So to put that on top of our happiness, and Robbie was squeezed. You see this hand is 3 times smaller than it is. Just squeeze it so hard. It was thrilling. I could feel it in my very bones, right down to my corpuscles. And it was, and I still have that feeling. When you went through it again, I was again thrilled.
Let me ask about that question that I posited there about, I mean, you did force accountability, and then he did it again. The defamation, the calling you a liar, the exact same things the jury held him liable for the day before, he did again the next day on national television. Is that just the way it has to be? Do you think that potentially could be actionable if you were to file another suit? Would it work the same way?
So it's definitely actionable. And here, the cruelty will make him less wealthy. He's not going to get away with it another time. It's unprecedented for a person to have been held liable in defamation to keep doing the defamation. So there are not a lot of cases that we can look to for a playbook about how to do it. But suffice to say, I have a lot of lawyers who are very busy looking into this, and we are weighing all of our options.
You also have another live case from the time when he was president and he was stating these same untrue things about you, defaming you in the same way. That case is still working its way through the courts. What is your expectation in terms of what's going to happen there?
You're going to see news from us in that case very, very soon, Rachel.
What counts as very soon?
I don't know how late the people work tonight, 2 to 3 days max.
Wow, okay.
But we're fully pursuing that case. We got a very good decision from the D.C. Court of Appeals, essentially affirming Judge Kaplan that when Trump said what he said about E. Jean in 2019, he was not acting as president. We're quite confident that that will be affirmed, and then we'll be able to move forward with damages in that case. We don't even need a finding of liability because we already have it, and we'll be able to find damages. And there, the defamation damages are much higher because that was the first statement he made, and that's what really destroyed her reputation as an advice columnist at Elle and to all her readers and people who trusted her and who looked up to her.
In terms of the timing here, after those statements that are still at issue in this live case, as you mentioned, you were let go from Elle in terms of your job.
Fired.
And you think that was related to his defamation?
No, it was related.
Let me ask you, E. Jean, in terms of what you went through There weren't cameras in the courtroom, but the whole country was following this word by word. And we have the transcript, and we know how your cross-examination in particular went. And I think anybody with a drop of empathy knows that must have been very painful. But you must have known it was going to be painful in the first instance when you set out to try to get your day in court here. Did things go the way that you thought they would? Were they harder than you thought they would be, or were you more prepared for how they were going to go than you expected? How did it match up with your expectations and how you'd prepared?
I was ignorant. I had never sued anybody. I'd never even been in a courtroom. It was tough. But Robbie Kaplan, who I heard someone you might know say, when the history of this era is written, there'll be multiple chapters about Robbie Kaplan. She and this brilliant team of lawyers had me so prepared, had me unbelievably prepared. I went in because I was so ignorant, confident. It was like getting hit by a board when Mr. Takapina did my examination, but I really wasn't doing it for myself. I was doing it for the women in the country, and I got very little sleep.
Mm-hmm. You slayed it, though, Eugene.
Every day was exciting. It's an incredible feeling to feel the waves across the country behind us. And the end, when I told what happened, I was heard. I was heard in federal court. I was heard in federal court in front of a jury of my peers. They weighed the evidence, and the truth was established. And the system works. It's amazing how this process worked after 2 weeks. I was astounded that it actually worked. And the reason it worked is Robbie Kaplan.
It helps to have a good lawyer to make the system work for you.
Right.
But I mean, you had a jury of 9. 6 men and 3 women on the jury. There's once things are in the hands of the jury, you never know what each individual juror is bringing to those deliberations, what their hang-ups or own experiences or prejudices might be, despite the fact that the process is designed to make sure you have a fair jury. Clearly, this is a ruling that shook the former president. The prospect of more accountability to come appears to be very unsettling to him. I think it is creating a sort of wave across the country of people feeling like you are speaking for a lot of people and not just yourself. But Robbie, you have sued this former president a lot, and you have been the point of the spear for some of the legal accountability that he seems least able to handle. And I wonder how that's changed your life.
Well, he doesn't like me very much, that's for sure. And he's kind of obsessed with the fact that my firm and some of the lawyers I work with have other cases against him. But I think in terms of my life, it's the same job, whether I'm suing Trump on behalf of Eugene, or we're suing the Charlottesville Nazis, or we're suing someone else. The job is the same. It's to litigate the facts, to marshal the evidence, to convince a jury, as we did in both cases. And here we had the best possible plaintiff and possible client to tell her story, to speak her truth. And as we said on our team, just let Eugene be Eugene. Mm-hmm. And she was, and the jury loved her, as they should have.
Let me ask you, as a matter of law and advocacy here, this case has got me thinking about other people who have or may have defamation claims against the same former president. People like the Georgia election workers, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. They have sued a few conservative media outlets and Rudy Giuliani for defamation. They haven't sued the president himself. But arguably, they've got the same kind of case to be able to make against him. Do you think the success of this case doesn't just buoy people who feel like finally accountability, finally truth being nailed to the wall and not led to slide down, but does it have the potential to change the legal landscape for other civil cases against Trump?
I think it does, because he's actually a very good defamation defendant, if you're planning to sue for defamation, because he lies all the time. He lies as a matter of habit. He lies about big things. He lies about small things. And in this case, we were able to show those lies, not only about it being fake news and a hoax and a made-up story, but even when I showed him that famous photo where he mistook E. Jean from Marla Maples. When he realized he'd made the mistake, he then said the photo's blurry. The photo was not blurry, but it was classic Donald Trump. And I think the jury really heard that. They really absorbed it. And that's why we got a verdict in 2.5 hours.
See, this is the reason that this is a bigger. I'm sorry to put it in these terms because I feel like I'm a little like casting a movie about it or something. But you saying that it's a disadvantage that he lies so much, I feel like it's the first time I've heard that in 7 years. The ability to lie without shame and without any sort of tell, without any sort of remorse about it whatsoever, and about even the most important things has always seemed like a political superpower to him. You've turned it into the opposite by virtue of the court system.
He's revived defamation law. Donald Trump, single-handedly.
Eugene, let me just ask you one last question here. I was struck by what you said about Trump's latest comments on CNN, and I know you didn't watch them live, which somehow gives me great comfort. But you said his words wound people. You used the plural there. Not that they wound me, or this is a way to wound women. You're talking about I'm just struck by your use of the word people there, plural. What did you mean by that?
Remember when he came, I've seen now clips of the CNN town hall, when he came on stage right after our enormous victory, and he made jokes about sexual assault. I couldn't believe the pain he was causing to thousands of people by joking about sexual assault. And that's how he hurts people. That's how he hurts people. And I'd love to have Robbie Kaplan just shut him up.
Eugene, Carroll, Robbie Kaplan, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you both.
Nice to see you.